This week I've had a few emails from clients and people who've read articles or read, one of my books, and they're essentially asking the same thing. One person wrote and said, hi Julie, I had an awakening 2 years ago, and I've been doing all the practices, and even though I have had this direct experience or direct capacity to see and honor and recognize the self. And the way she describes it is that she feels that she's just in the flow, everything's flowing, and she feels connected in, and her mind doesn't get engaged, and there's this kind of magic about everything, and synchronicity, and it feels magical and all of those great things. But then she is lamenting that it doesn't last, because there's a shift, something happens at work or at home, and so she starts to feel contracted and small again, and before she knows it, what's happening, she identifies with being the story. And that kind of so the question is, how do I get out of this identification with the story and back into feeling the expanse of the self? Because she feels that when she's in this story, that she's lost her connection, and it's kind of an indicator, so to speak, that she either has more work to do, or that she's lost it and she's got to get back there again, wherever there is. And and this is really a common kind of challenge, I suppose, when there's a shift of consciousness or an awakening. The appearance is that we flip-flop between what we believe are two very different states of being. There's kind of been merged in the self, where there's this flow, and then there's this flip-flop back into the story, and into feeling that you've lost your connection with the self, and you've got to get back there again, and all of that. And all of everything I'm speaking to here really speaks to and points to why I guess the retreat industry is so popular, because there's a drive then to go on retreat, to connect back in with the self, and then there's the hope that you'll bring the self back to your sort of normal working life. And of course all of that is just such an illusion. It's the illusion that drives the whole seeking game. And the reason it's an illusion is because it's the self, your higher self, let's call it that, or absolute awareness itself, that is your fundamental unchanging nature. It is here always, prior to any movement of the mind, prior to any movement of the emotions, prior to any story arising and subsiding, no matter how great the story might be. And that story might be, oh, amazing, I've had the most incredible spiritual experience, look how expansive and how elevated I am, and maybe tomorrow or the next retreat I'll become enlightened. And of course, all of that's just, again, it's illusion, because you are already that. You are already what you are looking for. So I say all of that to say that when you go through periods where you feel like you've had this expansive moments, days, or weeks even, of being in the flow with the self as the self, but then you get back into the story, nothing has really happened other than your attention your attention has narrowed from the expanse of the self, the limitless nature of the self, into following the sort of the storyline and going into that whole maze and just forgetting for a few moments. And it's neither good nor bad. But what is good and what is worth recognizing is that in order to see that, you spent time in the story. There must be something that is seeing this movement that is there prior to this sort of contracting down. Because if there wasn't something prior to that contraction, then none of that movement would have been seen. You are prior to the story. You are the self. You will always be the self. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if you get caught up again and get kind of pulled along in some high intensity storyline. There is something prior to that story, there is something that will report all of that to you when you snap back into or realize what has happened. And the good news is, over time, with a greater awareness, I suppose you could put it like that, then these habits, because they're just old habits and it's conditioning, the conditioning pulls us back in. There's a compelling story or there's a compelling habit or something that kind of like says, come here, let's go look at this or something. And then the expansive state of the self contracts down, awareness contracts down and starts to identify with the storyline. And of course, the story is not who you are. It will never be who you are. You are prior to the story. So in other words, don't fret if that happens. It's perfectly okay. You can just notice. And, as a practice, if you want to practice, just notice what it was that got your attention so much that it pulled you back into identifying with the story. Because there will be something, some old pattern or old belief or, storyline that hooks you back in. Another thing you can do when that happens is just go outside and sit under a tree. I've said this before with the palm trees here in the Bahamas. It's just so beautiful to see the slight movement in the breeze, or sometimes they're moving like crazy. But there's something that is here to see this, right? And it's the same with your story. There's something prior to the story that is here, that is watching the movement and the action and the activity and the emotions that go along with it. So just be vigilant, just pay attention and sit outside in nature. If you feel like you've become overly identified or upset or something, or angry with what's going on with the story. All right, so I'll leave it there. I hope this helps. Take it easy, be well. If you want to leave a comment, please feel free below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And you know where to find me. If you need help with anything, I'm here. Okay, so take it easy, be well, and bye for now.